Good evening. Welcome to the Armstrong School District Board of Directors Open Caucus meeting for Thursday, February 7th, 2019. Won't you please rise with me for a moment of reflection followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. And now the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think I did that at home.
Roll call.
Mr. Burdell, Ms. Bowser.
Here.
Mr. Chauncey.
Here.
Mr. Elkin.
Here.
Ms. Lote. Dr. Lobby.
Here.
Mr. Mulroy.
Here.
Mr. Skate.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
The Board of School Directors of Armstrong School District convened an executive session on Thursday, February 7th at 6:45 p.m. in the Faculty Lounge of West Hills Intermediate School in Kittanning for discussion of personnel and real estate.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This evening, we'll have a student board representative report from Armstrong Junior Senior High School.
All right. Good evening. So I'll be doing West Hills and the Armstrong High School. So we're starting off with the primary. January was uneventful at West Hills Primary. Kindergarten through second grade participated in their mid-year benchmark and Dibbles tests. Third graders took a study island math test and the reading test to benchmark their yearly progress. February brings Valentine's Day, and the party will be next week on Thursday, February 14th. The PTO will be sponsoring a movie night for the families on February 22nd, and they will also be sponsoring a spring book fair from February 18th to 22nd. West Hills primary students are also participating in the National Jump Rope for Heart program. So far, they have raised $3,000 with hopes to get $10,000, so students can participate in a building-wide assembly on February 22nd. The Kittanning Lions Club will visit on the 28th of February to deliver a chapter book to each West Hills primary first grader. For West Hills Intermediate, we have that they are continuing with their collaboration with Carnegie Learning and their Mathia program, and all the classrooms are continuing to create and experiment with new STEM activities. February is also Black History Month that they are celebrating. The classrooms will be engaging in lessons and activities and participating in different events to highlight the achievements and leadership of African Americans and other cultures. They will also be having their Valentine's party on the 14th. On the 14th and the 15th, parent-teacher conferences will be held. February 4th through 8th, the students will be participating in the Mobile Ag Lab, and they will be doing the movie night on the 22nd as well. And their spring book fair is on February 25th. The beginning of March will start Read Across America Week. For the high school, District Chorus is being held at Armstrong High School this year, and it started this evening, it's tomorrow evening, and then the concert's on Saturday. The scheduling process for next year is in progress. The winter sports are wrapping up. It was a successful season for them all around, and I actually just came from bowling practice, and we found out that both girls and boys varsity will be moving on to championships in hopes to make it to regionals and states, and 9 out of our 10 varsity made it for singles as well. Mr. Reams, the junior high band director, is starting a taiko group, and it's a drum group that students can join. The musical will be performed on March 15th and 16th, and 2 of our wrestlers, Augie Atwood, made most outstanding wrestler, and Josh Strobel made the most pins in a tournament this past weekend.
I have a report from Lenape Elementary. It has been an exciting time for the students of Lenape Elementary. Recently, the students from the University of Akron came and did an assembly on rockets for the 6th graders. At Lenape, they also had a jump rope for heart assembly where the students are having a drive to raise money for the American Heart Association. And to kick things off, a jump rope team held an assembly for the students. Coming up for the students is the Me and My Guy dance that will be held on February 15th. And currently, the students are enjoying the new STEAM lab. In this lab, the students get a chance to engage in science, technology, engineering, and math through using the 3D printer, makey kits, circuit boards, coding programs, and more. And I'm also pleased to deliver a report from the inaugural Armstrong Rifle team from our head coach, Christopher Robbins. The Armstrong Rifle team started the 2018-2019 winter sports year as an exhibition team. In just 9 weeks, the original 19 student athletes went from a rookie team with marginal scores to several students shooting near-perfect targets with scores above 100 out of a maximum score of 100 with 10 perfect shots. Our shooting program, while relatively brand new and in its infancy, has received high praise from not only the community, but also the student athletes themselves. In short, we are having a ton of fun. We have received positive recognition from our opposing coaches, as well as for how well our team has progressed in such a short time. Through the generous donations of various businesses and community members, we have been able to near fully equip our team. The sportsmanship, enthusiasm, and skill possessed by the original 19 student athletes is nothing short of amazing. The coaching staff is honored to have had the opportunity to take this team from its infancy and mold the 19 student athletes from various backgrounds into hopefully what is a powerhouse team in the future. We made very respectable showings in our 10 exhibition matches against very well-established teams, up to and including the defending WPIAL champs. The coaches and students of the team are very thankful for the continued outpouring of support for the team, and we are very grateful for the school board, who has allowed us to create this wonderful opportunity for our student athletes in the community. The students have learned discipline, firearm safety, marksmanship, sportsmanship, and most of all, have made new friends between themselves and opposing teams. This can only enhance their life skills and make them better citizens of the country and the county. They have represented the Armstrong School District and themselves in the most positive and professional light. This is a testament to themselves, their families, their educators, and their coaches. We, the students and coaches of the Armstrong Riverhawk Rifle Team, thank the board, the student athletes, and their families in the community for supporting our cause. Go Riverhawks!
Excellent. Thank you very much. Great report, both from a curricular and educational standpoint as well as extracurricular. Great to hear all that good news. Thank you. Central Office Admin reports.
Yeah, we have a number of presentations for the board this evening. I'll turn it over to Mr. Kirk to introduce.
Yeah, tonight, our first presentation, we have Bill Gaddy here tonight from Trek Development Group, as well as Mike Cooley from Armstrong County Development and Armstrong County Department of Economic Development. Mr. Gaddy's going to talk to us about some potential plans that his group has for the old junior high site. Sure.
So thank you. Good evening, folks. I'm like gentleman said, I'm Bill Gaddy. I'm the president of Trek Development Group. We're a Pittsburgh-based real estate development firm, but I'm from Indiana, PA, and I know many of the people in this room because we've worked in this community for some years now. We built some, you may know, senior housing in Manor Township, the old fairgrounds, with Mike and Rich Palillo and those folks up on the hill, Valley View Apartments. And then a few years ago, I think it's been almost 5 years, we developed Kittanning Cottages in downtown Kittanning, which is just a little bit up the road from the site in question. So we've had great experience here in Kittanning, and we think highly of your community, and we look forward to hopefully adding more to the architectural and community landscape here. So what I'm here to talk about tonight is the old junior high school site. And what you have in front of you is, sorry, Sydney, I have Sydney here, Connell, with me from Trek Development Group. If you ask any hard questions, I'm going to defer them to her, so you better be ready, Sydney. So this site, this is probably about a 3-year conversation we've been having about what was going to become of these old school sites. And we initially gave some ideas because we're in real estate and we have experience in this community. So we originally gave some ideas, but it seemed like the school and the town needed to grapple with this demolition or not demolition idea. So we pulled back from that. This was a couple of years ago. We said, figure out, what you want to do, and then if you ask us to the table at that point, we'll make a presentation. So obviously the school has been demolished, this site. We were also looking at the school site in Ford City, but that one didn't seem quite ready yet, so we made a proposal for this junior high school site in Kittanning. Now, initially, we'd met with some folks, and we were thinking of a townhome development, maybe a conversion to for-sale homes, but there was some questions about that idea, and people just felt more comfortable with senior housing. So we tested the market. The market study came back positive that we could support additional senior housing in the market. So this housing that we're proposing is targeted towards 36 residences, targeted towards area senior citizens over the 62 years of age. And they're affordable unit. It's mixed income. A certain percentage of them are set aside at 60% of the area median income and below, which is less than $30,000 a year, over age 62. And then the balance of the units are market rate. They can be leased to anybody as long as they're over 62 years of age. So first we looked at more of a Kittanning cottages style development, that kind of lower density cottage style development, which we liked, but as we got into conversations with other folks and other surrounding, we always try to look at the architectural context of the whole neighborhood. And the one comment we heard is that the Historic Society was really interested in that future lawn area, which I'll reference just on that single page as right here, owning that. And some of the borough council members were wary about giving over another site to just housing and wanting to create opportunities for commercial development as well. So for a minute or two, we were negotiating with banks, and we thought we might have a bank interested in putting a branch, but that didn't pan out in time. So what we decided then was, with input from different parties, was to go to this single building format that you see, and you can see all the architectural details in there. I'm very happy with we have a nice outdoor space on this side, beautiful terrace on this side. So, and I think it fits in very well with the architectural context, size, and building type. But going to a 3-story elevator building, what that allowed us to do was stay off of this area. We didn't need this sort of out parcel because we got the units count we needed on a smaller footprint. So we agreed to take control of this site, purchase this site from the school district. Well, I guess it's really an option with the IDC, empowered by the school board. And then we agreed to, in turn, grade and clean this site and then donate that back to the Historic Society for their great lawn. So they were very excited about that, and we were happy for the opportunity to do that. Then this sort of darker green area to the right side, I apologize for not having PowerPoint, but this area on the far, I guess that would be east side, we've reserved, we don't have any building there, we reserved that for commercial development. So we're hopeful that Mike's going to come forth with a great commercial retail tenant, and we're going to create some space there. So we've created the canvas here where we can achieve everything, which is our overall goal: create value, enhance lives, and strengthen communities. It's our mission statement. So I think we're hitting all the hot buttons. Now all we need is about $10 million to pull it off, 10 or 12 million, and we've applied for tax credits through the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency. That we entered into an option agreement with the IDC. We've applied for tax credits in November of 2018 through the support of Senator White's office. We've managed to garner some attention in Harrisburg. So we're hopeful that come May, June, we win this award, and we'll be building a new beautiful building and to add to your community. And probably wouldn't begin until late early 2020 at the earliest. So that's the goal. I won't go through page by page, and you know what I should say is a couple of important points. This is a privately owned building, so it is a taxable building. So there'll be tax base augmentation, which is a good thing. And the other sort of warning I'll give is the tax credits are extremely competitive, and even with political support from politicians like Senator White, who I was sad to hear is retiring at the end of February, but it's very competitive. The credits are oversubscribed, 5-1, so it's a dogfight. It might take a couple of tries to win the funding, but we're committed to seeing it through if others are with us and along the way. So I'll just open it up to questions there, or anything you want to ask about Trek or us or the ideas. And I apologize for being late in coming to this meeting, but happy to be here to answer any questions you might have.
Yeah, how many parking spaces are you allowing?
Well, whatever the zoning called for, we allowed for. I'm sure, Sydney, do you know the answer to
I
that?
added up around 46, excluding handicap. And you said how many?
36.
That only leaves 10 for visitors and whatnot, if I'm correct on that. Are
Yeah,
those
you-
parking on the future development as well?
Well,
Those parking spaces there?
those are parking spaces planned for on the commercial
Will they
side.
be put in there?
We wouldn't put, I wouldn't expect to put those in now.
Then you only have 31
might
under
be right.
40 in the gray area. Now, that doesn't mean everyone that's going to live there is going to drive, I understand that.
Yeah, there's around there. Yeah, this is based on our experience at Kittanning Cottages in Valley View and the zoning code. So I'm sure our designers just made the decision that based on the experience that was an appropriate amount of parking.
I know the one in Ford City, Franklin Towers, I believe it is, very limited parking.
They probably have a lot more units too. I think that's more like 60 some, and they probably have,
They probably have
Half the units.
12 parking spots
yeah, right.
in town.
So if that's a concern, when we get closer, we'll probably start making presentations at the borough level. If parking's a concern,
Yeah.
we'll rethink that.
Is that parking lot level with the second floor of the building?
Yes, it's because that's
So
a
the one on-
severely
yeah, 'cause
sloped
it-
site.
Yeah, there's an incline there.
Yeah, that was a little bit of an engineering feat. But yes.
The alley, that is going to be a main throughway now, right?
McKean Way,
Yeah.
well,
To your parking area.
it will be a throughway to the parking area, yes.
Now, is someone going to fix that alley?
Good question. What do you say, Mike? You want to fix the alley? I mean, what?
Well,
Yeah, I think if we did, I mean, we would certainly improve to the extent necessary. I mean, I'm sure we're planning to repave that area as our entry to our parking facility. You know, we're at the early stages, like
right
this is
now,
just,
it's a one lane,
Right.
and I think on the upper end, there's garages and everything else. You're not gonna do any expanding there, right?
no, on the upper
So, I
side.
mean, it's Kittanning Boroughs, right? Okay, so.
I imagine that'll be,
Addressed by somebody, I
yeah,
think.
sit down with the borough engineer and understand what the needs are and figure it out.
So, yeah, I understand this is very early. There's a lot of unknowns yet to
Yes.
be determined. But I also assume you've done presentations to the Kittanning Borough.
Yes.
And would you say that they're in favor, or did they do a formal vote on
They
this?
did. They voted unanimously in favor. We actually came to them with several versions. This is the version they picked. They liked the future ability for commercial. They liked the donation back to the Historic Society, good community give back. And so this was the version they wanted to go with. And they voted unanimously in favor of pursuing it.
Good. I mean, that was really important. That was one of our goals, is to make sure that whatever went in there, that we worked with the municipality to make sure that there was positive support for it. So it sounds like there is.
Yeah, I believe so. We've got good support.
Bill, was your interest in this property contingent upon receiving those tax credits?
Yes.
Yeah,
Without the tax credits, we have no path forward.
When are you going to get formal word?
They haven't announced yet, but we're expecting May or June. Now, there are many projects that we've attempted 2 times or 3 times. So probably what we do, suppose we got a yes, we'd go forth. If we got a no, we would have a debrief in Harrisburg, and they would tell us where we fell short. It's a very competitive scoring criteria. And then we'd go back to the drawing board, figure out if we could address those weaknesses, and then reconvene with the powers that be and see if everybody was game for another try, and then give it a try in the fall of 2019, this fall.
So it's an annual cycle then, your application?
Yes.
Other questions from board members?
How many years are left in the KOZ?
I don't know the answer to that. Do you know, Mike?
6 or 7.
Okay.
7?
I believe 7.
By right now, it's 7.
Other questions from board members? Comments?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have Mr. Jack Clevesy, Executive Director of our local YMCA.
I did bring something, so I needed this spot.
We have, Chris, can you help Jack?
What are we trying to work with?
Plugs the PowerPoint real quick.
Well, I'll just start off. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Is it
Yep, where are we going?
perfect? For the last 2.5 years, we've really done our best to really help strengthen Armstrong County. And we've done it in conjunction with many great partnerships. And what's transpired from that is giving us the opportunity to take a look at greater opportunities than I ever imagined coming here. Over the last 2 years, we've gathered a great amount of data. And this has led to this quick presentation I'm going to get a chance to show you here today.
You and I'll switch it for you. I had it.
Yeah, that'll work out great. So if you just switch to the next slide. This is the process that we followed for the last 2 years. We are currently finishing up this area right here. And within this pathway, some of the things that we found extremely important to find out was exactly what was expected of the YMCA through the lens of the community. And one of the greatest things we did when we gathered data in this place called community needs research was to sequester about 5,000 of our members, along with the 68,000 people here in the county, through a partnership with HCMH Hospital. And these are the initiatives that came back to us from these community needs assessments. Number one was people wanted a large gym, and they needed an indoor track because, as you guys could tell, although today was 63 degrees, last week at this time it was below 0. Expanded youth zone. There weren't enough things for kids to do in and around kids that didn't play sports. It's funny, the kids that don't play sports are the majority. Community venues. A lot of our space is already given out to organizations such as Rotary. We work with Arcmana. And we work with arthritis groups and groups of that nature, so we needed more space there. Universal locker room. We didn't really have much space for folks to be able to have different places to get changed and take showers and so on and so forth without having to use the large locker rooms. Aquatic expansion. This year we've done a lot of work with the district in allowing the swim team from the high school to come to the Y and utilize the space. And frankly, we're tighten that space right there. So we looked into what that would take there as well too. Wellness expansion was something that came back, and we found that we could offer a lot more if the overall area was great expanded. And then Group X Hub, converting larger areas and getting more people into our areas so that they can function in a much convenient area. Expanded lobby space. We found more so than recently that a lot of people come to the Y just to hang out, just to have a place to socialize. So we felt it was necessary to increase that. And then partner space. We feel that like the district is magnetic, so is the Y. And so if we could put partnerships that would make a difference in the same building or in the same area, specifically in the borough right there, that would create a much stronger draw. So this is exactly what the layout looks like right at this particular point. This is the existing first floor. Go ahead, please. This is the second deck. What's blocked out here is this is open to the pool area from the upstairs. So, as we left it today, I'm working with a company called Grow, and they work with YUSA to give us a hand in creating spaces that can be multifocal, meaning that they can change throughout the day with the patrons that come into the building at certain times. So, what we're proposing to do here is to add on a full-size gymnasium right here. This is the current one that's there. We feel that we're going to be able to serve a lot more people, a lot more groups with that in mind right there. We don't have an area for teens right now. Teens really don't have a place to go. Yet they come to the Y, but we don't have a lot of programs to support it. Universal locker room would be right here in this area right here. Currently, the pool area has all of this inside of there, and we only have 4 lanes. We're affiliated with USA Swimming right now, but we can't hold events there, which stops us from allowing other venues to take place. And so we're proposing to put in 8 lanes coming this way here, and then moving the warm pool that we use for arthritis and other health inequities to this portion of the building right here. Up in front right here is where we'd like to put the partner space. And then we'd like to expand our child watch because all of our kids go into this one area, and really it's not heavily appropriate for kids that are different age groups that we can move out and create more programming for them. Okay. Upstairs, above the gym, again, we put in a 3-lane suspended track. And then we're going to expand the wellness area to open it up because right now it's extremely crowded. We've almost tripled our membership over the last 2.5 years. And go to the next one, please. So this is what we're proposing with the natatorium right here. Again, we feel that there's other swim teams in the district and also within Armstrong County that could benefit from the same partnership that we have with y'all, and we're looking forward to see that take place. So we're looking to take the size of the building from 28,000 to almost 51,000 square feet. And the price is just a little under $8 million as it stands right now. This has been refined, I think, about 4 times at this particular point with the same group of folks that we're working with. So where we currently are right now in this process that I showed you, we've finished up the conceptual design. We're looking to get into the schematic design. From there, then we're going to get the cost modeling, which we've already sequestered 3 companies to do some estimating for us. From there, then, we'll be ready to move into this phase right here, which will be the funding phase. Currently, we've already applied for, just waiting to hear back on the RCAP. And I've got a call today from Mr. Thompson's office, and they're looking to give us a hand with another grant opportunity right there. So we're getting our ducks in a row from that standpoint. But we're really excited about getting this thing taken care of. So lastly, this is a gem that we were able to work with the district this year. We refurbished the tennis courts right here. We've done some roofing. We've done a bunch of work on the inside. Actually, I don't know if anybody that's been up there to see the property, but we've wide branded all the exterior buildings. We actually had over 1,000 families there back in September through November for soccer this year. I'm in the tennis business now. We actually started tennis lessons this year. We also added tennis lessons into our day camp. Our day camp this year consisted of over 160 kids for, I think it was, 11-week period. So it was very beneficial there. So all in all, it's just been a great venue, and I want to thank you tremendously, because without this, we couldn't have done that. And this year alone, we served, through our annual campaign, 1,114 families. We set out to raise $85,000, and we wound up at $186,000, so about 107% above the goal. That all being said, this was tremendous in taking place. And the last thing that's coming, and I don't know why it's taken so long. Well, I do know why it's taken so long, because I'm everywhere. Hvac City Boxing's coming back. And we're going to hold Hvac City Boxing. We're going to train out of there. And for the first time ever, the YMCA is going to have a boxing club, which I just can't wait to see happen. So stay tuned there. So more is coming. My board's really interested in next steps with this piece of property, because we really think that we could serve more. But I just want to thank you guys. Stay tuned. There's a lot going on, as you can see, and no is not the answer.
Any questions for Jack?
Just a comment. I mean, it's just fantastic. I mean, it's just such a great thing, great asset to this community. And you know, I'm a member, my whole family's member, and just what you've done over there over the last few years has just been just absolutely wonderful. It's you know, words can't describe how positive this is, and I love to see. I love the fact that you are not just sort of like resting on your laurels. Okay, here's where we're at. This is what it's going to be. You're always looking to expand, improve, make it better, and I think that's also important. And I'm really, really happy to see that you and your organization are continuing to do that.
Well, thank you. We really think that we can really make Armstrong County good.
You know, and I'll echo those comments. I sit on the board at the YMCA. Matt Pock is also here from the district, and you know, we actually finished in the black this year, which was fantastic. You know, from the effort of Jack and his staff, and all the extra things they're doing, bringing in the extra people, turning over extra profit, and a lot of exciting things. Jack is, like you say, he's on the go all the time. He holds people accountable. A lot of good people working down there, and it's a nice relationship we have between the district and. You know, for those who don't know, we also do a bus, you know, from our high schools that they have an after-school program. We work closely with these folks, so it's a good partnership and relationship right now between the district and the YMCA.
Yeah. Thank Chris as well. Without that bus, we couldn't get the swim team down there. We couldn't get the after-school kids down there. And you know, there's a lot of kids on the swim team. They can't afford to be there, and we subsidize that there through the annual campaign. And you guys know that the after-school program is fully subsidized by what we do. So this is not about money. This really just is about strengthening this community, and I just can't wait to see this happen. I apologize for not being all that sharp this evening. I get up every day at 3:30 a.m. and this is just about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, before I introduce our last two speakers, I'd like Dale Freeling. For those of you on the board that do not know Dale, Dale's our Director of Facilities. Dale's been in this capacity since July 1st. I could say that he's hit the ground running. Don't see a lot of him because I don't want to see a lot of him. He's out of the office. He's handling problems. He's addressing issues. He's doing a bang-up job so far. He's making actually our jobs a little bit easier because of all the efforts he's putting into. So those who don't know Dale, this is Dale. We don't require him to come to meetings, but I know he wanted to come tonight because he's been working closely with our next two guys, Matt Hansen from ICAM, which you all know, and Jim Kazinsky from Tower Engineering. They're going to talk to us about another alternative to the things we want to do out of Dayton. As you recall, we had Reynolds give us a presentation and a proposal or some ideas under another ESCO project. we felt it was just a good idea to get another book in, or maybe another alternative. So these gentlemen tonight are going to talk about the secure vestibule as well as the HVAC upgrades for Dayton Elementary.
It's great to see everyone again. It's been a little while since my last visit, but got a call last month from Sam talking about some ideas that he was looking at for Dayton Elementary School. And as he kind of described what he was thinking about, it was all mostly mechanical related elements. I quickly thought about my friend and somebody that I've worked a lot with, Jim Kazinsky with Power Engineers. He's a cross-trained engineer. That means he can attack a problem from an electrical, plumbing, mechanical perspective. He adds a lot to the initial conversations, schematically, conceptually. He was the guy that we really needed to talk to. So we arranged a time, met with Dale. Josh was there too, and Sam, and we really spent some good time in this school, having a lot of conversations in a mechanical room, which is almost impossible, but it seemed like the right place to start because we had a lot of questions, and what we provided today is really just our first pass, our conclusions in terms of an alternative strategy than what Sam had been discussing with another strategy earlier. So part of that, and my piece of this architecturally, is really the secure vestibule piece. Just to give you an idea of what we talked about when we're talking about a secure vestibule, this is a prototype, not your school specifically, but a very similar concept. There's two modes. There's arrival mode, secure mode. Arrival mode, when students show up, the doors fly open. We can get kids into school relatively quickly. Sometimes there's metal detectors involved in this process, but the idea is to maximize your accessibility and getting kids into school. As soon as that operation is complete, we go to a secure mode. And what that means is the doors lock for the most part. Everyone introduces themselves via a speaker or camera or both at the exterior of the school, and they present themselves, explain why they're there. They're then given access, but not access to the school, only access to this secure kind of holding area, sally port, if you will, the secure vestibule. The best secure vestibule that I've seen actually have two opportunities for conversations and egress in those spaces. You can have a face-to-face conversation with your first point of contact, many times an attendance secretary or some administrative official, and then if you're supposed to be there and everything checks out, you're given access then into another secure area, which would be the office, where you wait. If you're there to pick up your child for a doctor's appointment, dentist appointment, etc., you wait there. The student enters a different door from the already secured school, and that's how a secure vestibule operation is supposed to work. These doors are both controlled, typically with push-button controls, so they're in a locked position at all times unless somebody gives the authority to allow access into those spaces. So a very controlled condition. Looking at this from another perspective, the things that are your best asset when it comes to these security vestibules is transparency. When we talk about hardening of schools, everybody thinks that means a fortress. Really, the opposite is true. The more you can see out and see who's coming, the safer and the more secure a school can be. So you want to be able to see people coming, you want to be able to see who's in the vestibule, and you want to have eyes on people coming in and out of the office. So that's our best asset. From that prototype, this is what you're looking at Dayton. This is your vestibule. It's a very small vestibule. It doesn't serve a real purpose from a security perspective because there's really no visibility from the gatekeeper, the person controlling access. There's no visibility into that vestibule. There is some good visibility in this location out to the front drive and the drop-off area, so that's an asset and something in our favor. So what we talked about very conceptually is to take these doors away and really move them back to create a larger holding area, a larger secure area, potentially popping a window in there so that now we do have that access, maybe a slider, maybe a pass-through for driver's licenses, etc., and then a door into that secure waiting area. So again, we're basically able to match the prototype, the best practices that are out there nationally in this fairly simple modification to your current entry system.
Any questions on that part, vestibule?
Yeah, on the first part, the first section you're going into,
Yeah.
that window does not allow you to see who's coming through that first set of doors. Would that be by camera?
Well,
I mean, from what I saw there, it didn't.
so there's an existing window here. We're talking about
Right.
adding a window into that.
Yeah,
into that vestibule.
but the doors are back this way. Yeah, see, that's
Yeah, so
that,
there would, you're right, there would be a buzzer. There'd be a buzzer there potentially with a camera on it, so you would see that.
well, rather than having that, wouldn't it,
And we could add another window there too.
well, it'd be wiser maybe to even make the window larger or bring it down this way.
Sure, yeah, these are just conceptual ideas, but
Okay.
what we were able to confirm when we talked to Dale and the scope there is that we can certainly provide a secure
Yeah,
scenario.
that way you're
based
not
on the-
buzzing people in, they can see you.
Yeah, visibility is absolutely,
Key to it.
the more we can provide, the better,
Okay,
absolutely.
thank you.
Are there one-way mirrors?
One-way
One-way
mirrors.
mirrors. The secretary can look out, but the person out there can't look.
Certainly could be. I think there's a welcoming approach to this and a welcoming characteristic. Most people that are coming to the elementary school are supposed to be there. We want to welcome them in, but we want to do that in a secure way. So the mirrored glass, something you would see in maybe the grocery store, in the office there, or in a bank, is a little bit intimidating and a little bit counter to what we're seeing nationally. So yeah, I always talk about transparency as our best asset from a safety and security perspective.
I'd just put a bulletproof glass in and be done with it.
Tell them what that cost.
I'm sure it's not cheap.
There's a couple of different kinds of treatments for glass that can offer different levels of
Protect. I worry about somebody coming in, some crazy person shooting the secretary sitting there.
Absolutely. The standing hook example is on everybody's
Yeah.
mind. That's the
Yeah,
first
just
thing everybody
take all
thinks
the
about.
precautions.
And there have been a lot of developments in the films that can be applied to glass that offer a
Stop
different
it.
level of barrier. Ballistics glazing is incredibly expensive, but it's certainly available. It's something we can look at.
I would request that you look at something, doesn't have to be the most expensive, but something that would slow it down anyhow.
Yeah, we would look at all of those ideas, and I think because of the nature of that conversation, it would be best held in executive sessions so that the plans and all of the scope of security is really something that's not publicly known.
Right.
That's another misnomer. We want to share out all the wonderful things we're doing to keep our kids safe. That's counter to really keeping them safe.
Just tell them there's a window.
Yeah, you don't always want to talk about that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
have a question. As teachers arrive, those doors the doors that we have now
Yeah.
are always open. Are we going to have scan cards, or how are we
So-
going to access? Because there's nobody out at those doors
Yeah.
when we come in the morning. and
Well, that's one of the wonderful things about this project is we're addressing all of the door hardware within that scope. And so with electricians and door hardware experts, we can provide the right kind of access control, whether it's card readers, whether it's a punch key. Retinal scanners is probably a little overkill, but we can really do a lot of things to improve the security just based on the actual operation function of those front doors as well as the secondary doors in that secure vestibule.
Because right now, those doors are open from
Yeah.
I'm usually there
Well,
at 6:30 in the morning
the reason
until
this
those
is-
kids come through. I'm
Yeah.
just curious.
And the reason really this isn't a secure vestibule is because as soon as you're buzzed through, you're buzzed through all the way. And so we hope you go into the office, that's what everyone's supposed to do, but the truth is you have access to the entire school as soon as you get through that vestibule. We want another barrier here. We want to direct all the traffic after that arrival mode. We want to direct all the traffic into the office where it can be managed appropriately and proper protocol can be followed.
Brenda, our hope is to go universally. Right now, Dayton and Dayton and West Shamokin are the two buildings that we cannot access with our cards. So the plan would be that, yes, the buzz in one, the buzz in the next. These are programmed by employee, by hour, you know who uses them. If you don't have it, it's not programmed, you can't get in. So yeah, that would be the thought.
Thank you.
Are there still sign-in sheets for teachers? Or am I dating myself? Well, you'd still have to go through the office to sign up, to sign a sheet, rather than having
Well, I understand
access to the whole building.
I understand that, but right now.
Now, I know what you're saying there.
When we come in, and I'm glad what Sam
Well, I
said,
think
because
Sam has
answers
that thing.
question. That will be changed.
Yeah.
Because it's wide open for hours.
Yeah.
In the morning.
I think the main thing is access to the whole building at this point.
That's what we want to mitigate, yes. The buffer is what's ready for all that traffic in the office, and making sure that everyone that's there is supposed to be there, and we can deal with why they're there at that point. And with every safety and security conversation, this is just the first layer. There should be protocol, there should be process, there's security guards involved, and safety resource officers involved. All of that paints a picture of security, and this is just a physical element of the first secure element.
Thanks, Matt. My name's Jim Kazinsky. You've heard Matt in the past, and so you know his background and his experience. It's the first time you've seen me, so I'll give you a little bit of background. I graduated in '89 from Penn State. As Matt indicated, my major was architectural engineering, so technically I'm qualified on it. I'm Matt's things here, but so I do have a background in HVAC, electrical, plumbing, as well as fire protection, but my primary area of expertise is HVAC system design. I'm a principal at Tower Engineering. We're a medium-sized engineering firm that's located north of Pittsburgh, and I live in Evans City. So as Matt had indicated, we were asked to take a look at Dayton and see what we thought with respect to the existing HVAC systems and how it could be potentially upgraded. So that's what I've done, and what I'm going to do initially is talk about the existing systems. I'll describe the initial proposal that you are giving consideration to, and I'll also describe a second option that I think merits some consideration. So initially, the existing building. This building, the existing Dayton Elementary, was constructed in 1962, but it was given a fairly comprehensive renovation with respect to the mechanical and the electrical systems in 1994. So this is a building type that I know extremely well. I started, the majority of my career has been designing systems for K through 12 facilities, and we've renovated many buildings that are very similar to Dayton Elementary. The existing system, with the exception of only several areas in the building, it is heating only, which I'm sure that you're very well aware of. So there's no cooling capability in educational spaces, and there's also there's no dehumidification capability. But it's a fairly typical building for the 1990s. In the 90s, I designed many buildings that were very similar to this. As part of our review process, as Matt indicated, spent a lot of time with Dale, came out twice to take a look at the building. We also had access to all of the original the renovation drawings from 1994. And so this is one of the floor plans. This is the left wing as you're coming into the building. And I'm going to zoom in to show one of the classrooms. So each of the classrooms has a unit ventilator, and this is basically the same piece of equipment that we see in here right now in this room. This unit, I suspect, has cooling capability. The unit ventilators in Dayton do not. There is a hot water piping distribution system, so these lines that start out in the corridor here, there's a tapped connection, shut-off valves. The piping crosses over the ceiling, drops down, and then crosses over and connects into the existing unit ventilators. There is a thermostat on the wall for each one of the unit ventilators, and it's an antiquated thermostat that was typical of that age. It's a pneumatic system. It relies on air pressure to change the temperature in the classroom. Again, it's very typical. But at this point, the equipment throughout the building is 24 years old. And in general, the terminal equipment, when I say terminal equipment, that's the equipment that's on the roof, as well as the unit ventilators that are in the classrooms. They have achieved the typical expected longevity that we see for K through 12 HVAC systems. As I indicated, the control system is antiquated and does not provide for a great degree of control in the classrooms. And there's no cooling capability, and there's also no dehumidification capability. So here's an actual picture of one of the unit ventilators from Dayton. So moving forward, and you can tell I'm an engineer. My graphics aren't as pretty as Matt's. This is what I have. So each one of the classrooms has the existing unit ventilators, and the initial proposal, the initial option that was provided is to install a system that would provide ventilation and dehumidification to the classroom spaces. And that would be done by installing a rooftop unit. And from that rooftop unit, there would be ductwork that would be above the corridor ceilings. That ductwork would be connected to a small diffuser. Let's see, we don't have any diffusers in this room, but it's a small square air outlet that would be in each one of the classrooms. The system would be sized for the ventilation and the dehumidification only requirements of a classroom. And typically for a classroom, it's going to be 400 or 500 cubic feet per minute of air. And we'll talk about that more when we get to the other alternative. And because of that, it's a partial cooling solution. When you have dehumidification capability, you also have some cooling capability, but this alternative would not provide full cooling capability. So on a day when it's very, very warm outside, you're not going to have classroom temperatures that would be consistent with other schools in the district where full and active cooling is being provided. The alternative option that I developed is to look at what we refer to as a rooftop variable air volume system. In some ways it's very similar, but it's distinctly different in other ways. In this alternative, we still have a piece of equipment that would sit up on the roof. There still would be ductwork that would be above the ceilings, the corridor ceiling. However, a significant difference is that in each one of the classrooms, there would be a box above the ceiling called a VAV box, a variable air volume box. It's really very simple. It's a damper that opens and closes in response to a thermostat. So there would be a new temperature control system, new thermostats that would be installed. The thermostats would sense a rise in heat, and it would open up the damper, very simple, and provide more air into the classroom. For a typical classroom, you need about 1,000 to 1,100 cubic feet per minute of air. So this system provides approximately twice the airflow that the dehumidification, anywhere from 2 to 3 times the airflow that the dehumidification system would provide. In addition to that, what we would do is take advantage of the piping. If I go back to this slide, we have existing piping that's already above the ceiling. And in your case, the piping's in good shape. The piping lasts much longer than 24 years. So we would connect into that piping and connect to a new hot water coil that would be in the ductwork. What that's going to allow us to do is to abandon the existing unit ventilators and just leave them in place. We would pull the power wiring, block up the outside air looper, and they would just be abandoned in place. So all of the heating, the ventilating, and the air conditioning for the educational spaces throughout the building would be accomplished with this brand new VAV system. So by doing that, we get rid of equipment that is already beyond its expected longevity. We replace a control system that is also antiquated. We have a quieter system because you can hear the fan running in this unit ventilator. Here, the only fan is up on the roof. There's just a damper that's above the ceiling. And we also reduce the amount of maintenance that's required. The unit ventilators all have fans, they all have filters. The VAV box has none of those things. No fans, no filters. There's significantly less maintenance that is required. So, as I indicated, this is Dayton Elementary is a building that I'm very, very familiar with. So familiar that we recently finished 4 elementary schools for the Trinity area school district. Trinity is in the Washington area, Washington, PA area. And what we did was take 4 buildings that were renovated in the same time, in fact, 1994, in the same type of system, floor-mounted unit ventilators that were getting old, and we replaced it with packaged rooftop unit VAV systems. This is a wing from our actual drawings for this. Here's the rooftop unit, here's the ductwork, here's that VAV box I talked about, and then there's piping. For the Trinity projects, they were a little bit more complicated because we could not reuse the existing hot water distribution system because of the water quality. The piping was eroded and we had to replace that. That's not the case with Dayton. For the Trinity projects, there were 4 buildings, and we just completed the construction of 3 buildings last summer. And then the last building was just put out to bid. It was broken up into 2 parts because there was some pyrite remediation for the 4th building, and there was a question whether the school district was going to end up closing the building or if they wanted to move forward. They were able to take care of their concerns, and this fall they decided to move forward and complete the project for all of them. So what I did, this is the budget that we put together. This was developed and put together November 19th, 2018, so it was just a couple months ago. At that time, we finished and put out to bid the Trinity South Elementary School, which is the one that I showed you on the prior screen. And what I did was take those actual bid results for the project, and I used those bid results to look at a projection of what Dayton Elementary's cost would be for the same type of rooftop variable air volume system. So the last slide is really a comparison of the 2 possible alternatives with respect to the scope as well as the construction cost. So the ventilation, dehumidification system provides partial cooling. The rooftop air volume system provides full cooling to all of the classroom spaces. The option, I'll just say option 1 and option 2. Option 1 reuses the existing unit ventilators for heating. For option 2, the unit ventilators are abandoned and you don't have to use them anymore and take care of them. The existing pneumatic controls are retained with option 1. With option 2, the controls are completely replaced with a new direct digital control system. DDC is direct digital control system that's much more effective. For option 1, the hot water pumps are being reused. For option 2, we would be replacing the pumps because the water flow rates, the hot water flow rates would be reduced, and it provides an opportunity to save energy. For option number 1, the proposal included, the base proposal, I should say, included minor upgrades to the office HVAC system. Because of the age of the system, I felt it would be prudent to replace the existing HVAC system for the office, and that's how I looked at this proposal. Similarly, the option number 1 reused the library rooftop unit and just added cooling. It added a condensing unit. Option number 2 is a brand new library unit, so there's no reusing the existing rooftop unit. Option number 1 was not making any changes to the kitchen makeup air unit. Again, it's beyond its expected longevity, and so I included the replacement of that unit. The same thing with the computer room, the same thing with the faculty room. Terminal heating devices. When you walk into a building, through the entry vestibule that Matt was showing you, there's a cabinet heater that is on the wall. So I've included the replacement of those cabinet heaters throughout the building, again, based upon their age. I also included the replacement of the existing fire alarm system in the building. When you do a substantial amount of work to a building's HVAC system, the code is going to require that the fire alarm system be updated. So that's priced into option number 2. Option number 1, reuse the existing lighting, and there was an ad alternate that was provided, but the base option, which is the $1.5 million price tag, reused the existing lighting. The alternative, I included replacing all of the existing lighting throughout the school, and the secure vestibule that Matt showed is priced in both of the options. So the original was 1.5 and 2 2.25 for the rooftop variable air volume system. It's a more expensive alternative, but I think there's substantial advantages because it's replacing all of the equipment. It's really beyond its expected longevity, and free cooling is being provided. One of the things that I took a look at that didn't get on this slide was to make more of a, let's say, an apples-to-apples comparison of the two. I backed out the cost associated with the fire alarm system, the terminal heat, some of the things that I included because I felt that it made sense. I backed that out at the $2.25 million price tag, and that gets option number 2 down to about $1.8 million. I still recommend that you replace the equipment that is aging, but I thought that that would be an interesting number for you to have it in. Are there any questions?
Even though, the second option is full air, what do you think the difference in energy usage by going full air compared to the other one? Since we're upgrading, going to newer system, you think we use less energy than we're going full air, or you think about the same? And what?
You have less motors running. There are no motors running in unit vents in the second proposal. In the
Right.
first proposal, there are in every like 23 unit vents. Motors. You got an air compressor that runs with all the pneumatic system. You have a pneumatic air dryer which has to dry the air before it goes into thermostats. It runs 24/7. And that's a savings.
It definitely is. And in addition to that, the lighting is a significant.
But and I figured, and that was my next question. I'm sure the lighting alone is going to be a significant savings.
Yeah. And we took a look at the original electrical drawings. We had a copy of all those drawings. The typical classroom in Dayton is actually overlit right now. And so what we would propose is to reduce the number of fixtures and have the new fixtures be LED fixtures. We actually looked at the incoming service, and you're in pretty good shape with the incoming service. There are 4 spares in the electrical distribution panel that look like they can pick up the load for all of the new rooftop units.
Does that lighting, did you include any energy savings like sensors in the classrooms? That includes sensors?
Absolutely.
So you walk in, they turn on, after 5 minutes it turns back off?
Yeah, the lighting control sensors are a code requirement for a new building. When you're doing a renovation, you don't really have to do that, and that's actually a difference that I didn't identify. I know that in the original proposal there were alternates provided to upgrade the lighting, but that alternate included relamping the existing fixtures, not changing the controls. What I've priced is changing out the fixtures and putting in all new controls. So there would be occupancy sensors, and that adds significantly to the energy savings.
So something to consider in that vein too would be daylight harvesting sensors. Sense how much natural light we're receiving, and automatically dim the lights to save a little more energy as well, and provide a very consistent light level depending on whether it's a bright sunny day or a day like we had today.
Last question for me. Obviously, I mean, right now is a terrible time to bid and everything else like that. It would be very difficult to get this design to be ready for summer. So recommending fall, go out to bid, award, late winter, start work. What's the time frame you're looking at?
Absolutely. This time of the year is a difficult time to put a project out to bid or to really run in and rush into a design, because by the time a design is completed and put out on the streets, the majority of the contractors that you would want to look at a project like this already have their summer work lined up, which, by the way, the Trinity projects were all done over the summer. There was no phase construction. We did the projects entirely over a summer period, and so they were very successful that way. What I would strongly recommend is bidding the project late this year and putting it out on the streets early so that bids could come back from contractors before Christmas. If you wait till after Christmas, the contractors don't look at it until they come back from Christmas holidays. So before Christmas, at that point, the contractors don't have their summers lined up, and they like a project like this because they can come in and be very effective. They can put a lot of manpower on the project and get it done over a single summer. So I'd recommend
You know, if the board decided this is the direction that they want to go, how long would it take you to put the bid documents together? Because I understand your rationale for waiting to bid it. You said it's a difficult time, it's not impossible, right? You put it out there.
If there was a, if you're asking if there was a need to rush through the project, we're a medium-sized firm, so we have 28 employees. We could do that. We could start a project like this immediately. We could specify that the rooftop units be pre-purchased by the district and then turned over to contractors to try to get a project done over this upcoming summer. You're going to pay a lot more though, and when you pre-purchase mechanical equipment, you take more liability. It's better to have the contractors purchase the equipment, but completing the design for a project like this in time to bid it with the schedule that I recommend is not a problem. It's easy.
I don't know if this should be addressed to you or to Dale. What's the status of our existing heating system out there? Do we anticipate any expenses in the boiler system?
Time, but it's just the idea of it, you're not replacing any heating system, you're only adding a cooling system, so you still have an old heating system
Right.
with old pneumatics. Because the first proposal, we're still going to use the pneumatics. And pneumatics is a dying. The new system, it's all DDCs, so it all run off. We'll be able to control it from anywhere in the building, like the schools, all our other schools, all we can see them. And, the same computers.
So right now, Dale can sit in his office under the DDC systems that we have in our other buildings, and he can control, he can see what's going on, heat, everything else. He cannot see Dayton currently. This would enable him to see Dayton from his office, from his home, control it. If somebody forgets to put it on weekend, the weekend mode, return on, he can come in, set that, and do it.
If there's a malfunction, it can be set up to wake up Dale in the middle of the night.
But you still, if you like the first code, you're going to still have the old heating system, which is 25 years old. We're not changing the boilers at all in any of these systems. The boiler is going to stay the same, which is in still good shape. That would be the only thing you have to change, like many years down the road. We got lots of years on it yet.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about the boilers. The boilers were installed in 1994 as part of the renovation. They're cast iron, H.B. Smith cast iron sectional boilers. I'm an engineer. These are nice boilers, and these are boilers that, when they are taken care of, they can easily last 40 years. We see this all the time. So there's really, are new boilers more efficient? Absolutely, they are. Are these boilers ready to be retired? No, not at all. You're not having problems with cracked sections or anything like that. So I would not recommend that you change the boilers out. I didn't include it on here, but there are some energy efficiency upgrades that could be considered. It could be talked about in the future. You could add a small, higher efficiency boiler that on, let's say, a 40-degree day would handle the load for the building and only use the large existing cast iron sectional boilers on the colder days. But those are things that can be discussed.
I just wanted to make sure that we weren't anticipating in a couple of years having another major expense with the heating system out there. Okay.
After a project like this, you should be good for quite a while.
Okay.
I have two. The $2 million, that is construction cost, not project cost. Am I right?
No, that is actually the project cost. This is that is including contingency. It's including professional fees. So both of these are. My understanding is that the 1.5 was a project cost. So and that is exactly how I looked at the 2.2 also.
Okay. Second, will the electrical system currently in Dayton take care of, can it handle this?
Yes, my area of expertise is HVAC, so I took the drawings, I took data that we gathered. Sam sent me utility bills for the peak load months, and I had one of our electrical engineers do a load analysis, and without a doubt, the existing electric service is sufficient, and you have spares available. So it's really very straightforward.
Thank you.
we were fortunate there, because if we didn't, that would have been a huge cost upgrade to get the electricity where we needed it.
It would have been, if the electric service needed to be replaced, it probably would have been in the $100,000 to $125,000 range.
Any other questions for Matt and Jim? Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Welcome, Dale.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Something.
Okay, at this time, do we have any public comments on any of the agenda items? Or student board representative comments this time? Okay, hearing none, we are going to go over to presentation of the regular monthly agenda, so we can discuss individual items that will be voted on Monday, and I'll be looking for consensus on these items. So I'll be looking for a consensus to add the open caucus session minutes for January 10th, as well as the regular meeting for January 14th minutes. First of all, any discussion by board members about the minutes? Do you have consensus to add those items on Monday?
Yep, yes.
Yes.
Okay. I can tell people really want to move on. Bills, we're going to have 4 items for bills to be added to the agenda on Monday. Food service for January, the capital projects fund for January, the athletic fund for December, and the presentation of bills for payment in January. Any questions or comments about bills?
No.
Do I have consensus to add those 4 items on Monday?
Yes. Yes.
Personnel, we have personnel items 1 through 17. Do I have consensus to add all personnel items to the agenda on Monday?
Yes.
Education, 4 items under education. Looks like some standard things here. Does the administration want to comment on Ed 4 at all, or any? Is that these just run?
Yeah, the standard year-to-year.
Student transfer requests, an overnight senior class trip, revision of school dentist listing, and then extending school year services for students in the autistic support and life skills programs. Do I have consensus to add? First of all, any questions on Ed 1 through 4?
Ed 4, if we could. We've got 3 buildings, and the number of people involved, how many per building do we have? Staff?
To staff that program,
Right.
I think we have 1, plus we have teacher aides as well.
Okay, so the number, 1 autistic teacher, 2 life skills, that's the whole, that covers all 3 buildings?
So, yes.
Okay, this is a mandated program, right? State mandate?
Let me say it this way. A district our size, we typically have children whose individual educational placement requires them to have extended year, which means summer school in effect.
Right.
But I believe we also provide on a cost basis a couple of other public schools, if they have students, they have to provide it for them. Is that still good? I don't know if we have any right now, but that potentiality has existed for you. In other words, if a smaller school can't do it on their own, they pay us to do it for them.
Do we have any number of students? Do we have an idea even?
No, I can't give it to you. I'll have it for Monday. I don't have it in front of me. Okay. This is a project. We've run this program year after year for as long as I can remember.
And you run it, I mean, it's efficient staffing, not overly staffed.
Staffed appropriately, and it's absolutely good for the kids.
Thank you. Any other questions? Do I have consensus to add those items on Monday?
Yes.
Business, 1 item, budget transfer report for January 2019. Any questions on business one? Do I have consensus to add that to the agenda?
Yes.
Maintenance, 2 items. M1 is Sunday usage of the AHS gymnasium, and M2 is a feasibility study for a new athletic field house in West Shamokin. Admin want to make some comments?
I could, on M2, we have a proposal from ICAM, Matt Hansen, our architect. We met with him last month, reviewed some of the needs and the wants of the administration, the athletic department of West Shamokin for that facility. He's put together a proposal to study 2 different sites. One would be, when you first come into the back of the building, connecting it to the existing maintenance garage, and the second site would be to the far end of the stadium, off to the right, having a standalone building. He has his proposal in here. Also, the program statement, he calls it, by talking again to the folks at West Shamokin, these are things that they're looking to have within that field house and that space and approximate size. So he will test both areas, provide us with diagrams, 3D composite drawings of those areas, and come in making some recommendations. At that point, I know the folks at West Shamokin want to solicit some partnership opportunities with some local businesses to see if they're interested, and by having these drawings would help them do that. We had a couple good meetings with them, and I think this would only further expand the possibility there and see which option's the best, in what direction, get us some better pricing, some good estimates before we move forward.
Okay. I know Mr. Burdell, this is not really anything new. Mr. Burdell has been bringing information back from folks out there about looking into this, so.
It'd be about the same time frame as probably Dayton's gonna pan out to be. It would not be to the summer of 2020. Again, very late in trying to do something instead of rushing into it and getting bad pricing. You know, plan this out, do a study, go out to bid next fall if the estimates look like it's something we could do.
Any other questions on M1 or M2?
The field, West Shamokin is slightly larger field house than Armstrong's, is that, or is it the same size, or?
Well, the locker room's smaller.
No, just total square footage, is it close?
Off the top of my head, I think it's smaller. I don't remember exactly what the square footage is at Armstrong.
Just the field house, not the concessions.
There's no other, we do not need to need the other side of it, the restrooms or anything like that.
And the footprint includes the weight room as well.
This does include a weight room. But the same thing that at Armstrong is going to be at West Shamokin, but probably just on a little bit smaller scale because they do play a different class, smaller classification of football, and sports a little bit smaller, so you don't need the locker rooms. It's not as great because this is calling for 50 lockers in the home. We have 70 at Armstrong.
Okay. Okay. Also about M1, is there any particular reason it had to be a Sunday?
That was the request of the Little League.
That was our request. And this is basically Little League from Ford City, Kittanning, Little League, and Worthington, that combined.
My understanding is that it's their tryouts.
Okay. Will there be batting cages? Probably.
I don't know I'm not sure what.
So do we have an age range at all? 8 to 15?
It's going to be, I'll tell you, just because I was on the Little League board for a long time, not with them, but up at West Shamokin. So you're going to have kids that are anywhere from 5 years old to, they could be.
They have junior, senior league,
They could be up to 16 years old.
They have junior league?
If they do.
If they would. But so Armstrong Athletics actually has, so they run Little League, they run ASA softball, and they run Pony League for baseball. So they incorporate a bigger scale of kids than what we had with just Little League when I was just with Little League.
That's baseball and softball.
That's baseball and softball.
And they have the same range. So it's probably going to be a lot of people, huh?
Probably.
Probably.
I would say they're going to have tryouts probably for,
300-400 kids.
yeah, because what they do is they divide the teams, try to divide them evenly. So you're going to have your 8 and under kids, you're going to have your 9 and 10s, your 11 and 12s, 13 and 14s.
Okay.
Is there a cost to them, to this?
I don't know if it's run through our booster organization request or not.
I'd have to look at the form to see whether or not we're charging them or not. There are some things with community organizations that we've we don't charge. If there's, if we do anticipate there has to be a custodian or something there, we definitely do not waive that fee if it's gonna cost something extra. Just sometimes we waive the rental fees for community groups and nonprofits. But if there is extra personnel on our part that we have to provide, we do charge for that.
Does our current high school softball and baseball team practice in the gymnasium?
They do.
I mean, my only concern, not so much the other issues, but, just, potential damage.
I would agree that they should use an inside ball, like an Incrediball, when they're doing these things, because with the plastic bleachers, the way they are, and if you're throwing those directions with a hard ball, whether it's baseball or softball, they're both hard, I've seen those bleachers get cracked and broke.
We can't, we can't let that happen, so I don't know what you guys
No,
want.
They normally have indoor balls,
Yeah, they've
which
been
is
very
soft.
respectful of
We've let the groups use their buildings here.
I mean, there are kids, they're well supervised, they've taken very good care of not only there, but all of our facilities. They've been doing it for years, they're very good at managing a large group of people, organized. I don't anticipate any issues, and it's not gonna cost us money to host them.
I know Armstrong Athletics is in talks with Ford City. Baseball and softball over there. They're talking about combining, so they could all be incorporated into one program here.
And it's a good way, you know how it is in the spring of the year, March, to try to get tryouts outside. You can't, it's impossible. So it's a nice gesture to open up the building for the day, and let them come inside as long as they're respectful. And it's,
Yeah,
this point,
I don't-
let them use it
like I said,
before.
I don't have a problem with that.
I think even last year, they did the same thing, they requested it. We had no issues.
Do I have anything else on them, 1 and 2? Consensus to add those to the agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
Student transportation services, 1, approval of bus drivers. Do I have consensus to add that to the agenda?
Yes.
Policy, number of items. Does our solicitor wish to highlight any of those changes?
Actually, there's not much to highlight. It seems like every year we are continually changing the non-discrimination in employment practices as well as qualified students with disabilities. These are some minor tweaks, and they are occurring because the federal and state regulations get tweaked annually, it seems like. And the changes are highlighted, as you'll see, there's really not too much to it. The purchasing policy was simply to update it because the inflationary index came up. So the thresholds for bidding and quoting have increased a bit, so that's what those changes are. And the same with the federal procurement program. Keep in mind that even though there are changes in the federal procurement program policy, whichever bidding requirements are more strict, that's what we follow, and in most cases, the state's bidding requirements are more strict. And policy 611, again, is the increase because of the inflationary index for quoting projects and purchases.
Any questions about those policy items? Consensus to add those to the agenda on Monday?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. General, one item under Gen 1, and that's the approval of a solicitor for ASD. Huh. Let's see.
Don't put it on.
Do I have consensus to add that to the agenda on Monday?
Yes.
Okay, now we'll move back over to the open caucus agenda, and we're on other. So there's an informational folder.
Yeah, there's 2 issues that the board needs to discuss tonight. The first being the land bank that we discussed in depth at our last meeting. We had a follow-up meeting with county commissioners and representatives from the Development Authority to have further discussion. We're asking the Armstrong School District to approve to participate in the land bank. Let you, Mr. Johnson, give an update as to how that meeting went last week.
Well,
No, go ahead. Go.
We had a couple administrators meaning business and superintendent, and 3 board members volunteered to attend. They seem pretty positive about it. I suspect that the changes that we would be asking for, which are in your informational folder, and they are changes to the current agreement that is circulating, I believe they would probably accept them. I think the biggest issue for you is whether you even want to do this. We've tightened up what our financial responsibilities would be, and again, that would be 5 years of 50% of the taxes collected on any of these properties that make their way through the land bank. And we, in this agreement with the amendments, are making it clear that it is only taxes that we actually collect during that defined 5-year period. Meaning if a taxpayer doesn't pay the taxes, we're not responsible to cover it. And if it is in a LRTA and KOZ where there are tax abatements, we are not responsible for covering it. It's still 50% of the abated tax amount. The balance of the tax amount, excuse me, not the abated. And the 30-day termination notice to them continues. And we put language in there that explains what happens if the school district chooses to terminate what we're responsible for, and it's basically any properties that are already under agreement of sale. One of the things that the group had major concern with was our input in what the land bank is doing, which properties and who they may be reselling them to. There was discussion of having a representative from school district actually sit on the redevelopment authority board. They're willing to consider doing that. They needed to check whether they are legally able to expand the redevelopment board by adding additional members, whether there were any restrictions on the qualifications of those members. The other was to have an advisory committee that the municipalities and member school districts that participate in it would have representatives who would give advice to the land bank. The changes I made are a little bit different, but again, you don't have to follow it, and that is that it mandates the land bank before they acquire a property or resell a property that they have to contact our designated representative and have an actual face-to-face meeting to get our feedback on whether we think it's a good idea, bad idea. Keep in mind, even if we have a member on the board, it's one member out of at least 5 and possibly 7 or 9 members, depending if they're able to expand their redevelopment authority board that it would be serving as the land bank. We don't know if the municipalities would want a representative on there, but we did as part of the school district, if that's an option you guys want to consider, if it can happen. And any questions you have about the proposed changes, I'm here to answer them. Again, I think your biggest decision is whether you want to do it or not. Again, we have the 30 days that we can give notice and pull out of the land bank. Even if we pull out, we've left open the idea they could still come to us for any particular property and ask that we be willing to remit tax dollars to them. Statutorily, that is capped. Even if we're willing to do it, it is statutorily capped at no more than 50% for 5 years. So even if we were willing to do more, we can't.
Good summary. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of pieces to this. As you know, last month we talked about it here at great length. We had lots of questions, lots of concerns. I compiled all of those. We sent them to the county, and then they answered all of those. I feel they fully answered those. I think that was distributed to all the board members, or at least made available to the board members. So take a look at that, see if it answers your questions. I think for me, there were a couple big points to all of this. Number one, in favor of doing the land bank. We're talking about land, we're talking about property that is currently delinquent. We're not getting a cent from these properties, so certainly if there was a way to flip that and get it back on the tax rolls would be a very positive thing. A concern was that we didn't have any, at the front end, the initial agreement didn't have any involvement by the stakeholders. I consider Armstrong being the biggest stakeholder because we'd be paying 50% of the property tax if they do manage to get it flipped. But also the municipalities are also stakeholders. So when we met with the county last week, it seemed like they were very, and Dr. Lobby and Mr. Smith, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like they were very amenable to considering that in some form or another, either a full-blown position on the authority or, as Mr. Price said, as an advisory board. So I think they will do that. That was a big thing. And then the other thing is, if we don't like what's going on, we don't, even having the advisory committee and maybe they're just not listening to the input or just something's going sideways, we can pull out of it, as Mr. Price said. So without a lot of damage. So I am currently in favor of this, of course, with some, if everyone takes a look at it, we want to maybe get any suggestions for your draft.
Sure.
Because, I don't know if everyone had taken a look at that, but I guess in general, I'm in favor of that with those big kind of overarching stipulations. How do other board members feel, and how would you want to proceed?
I'm comfortable with moving forward with it. I mean, we can't do anything until we take this draft to the land bank and see if they're willing to.
Yeah, it's
accept
primarily,
it.
obviously, the county that cares the most.
Right.
So yes, if you want this, we can take it to them and go from there. I don't want to do that unless you feel you guys want to move forward.
Right. Sure.
I mean, there's little downside for us to this. The upside is that we may get some properties back on the tax rolls that are paying taxes and get them rehabbed and make it a better community.
Yeah, I think the concern that our group expressed to them was a concern that the land bank becomes more of putting together properties and they're all going to non-taxable entities, be it green space, nonprofits, recreational things operated or owned by the municipalities. That was part of the concern, that we weren't moving forward in terms of increasing our tax base.
But they did.
I think they have a problem if they do that, because they can't self-sustain the land bank if they keep giving property to non-taxable entities.
But they did talk about payment in lieu of taxes too.
Yeah, that's correct.
So they're aware of that.
And that's the nice thing about having a voice at the table. They don't have to listen to it, but then we also don't have to, if they aren't listening to that, and let's just say that there's a pattern of a lot of these properties are getting flipped over to nonprofits, then, and we voice concern about that, and at the end of the day, then we will have to make decisions about whether to keep participating. I don't think that would happen, because like you said, it doesn't benefit them, because they're not going to generate any of that 50% tax revenue, because they use that money then to go out and purchase other properties, in addition to maybe some grants that they can secure. So, yeah, I agree with Dr. Law.
Yeah, payment in lieu is commonly referred to as a pilot. And what that means is a non-taxable entity, before the land bank would be willing to give it to them, they agree that they will make payments regardless of the fact that they are tax exempt.
One of the main problems I have is the properties will be, this is from the questions, the properties will be referred to the land bank by the municipality to buy. Now, this is from an article, October 2018, Westmoreland County Land Bank. Just to shorten it up for you, they purchased a vacant lot that sat between two blighted buildings. The buildings were demolished. They were owned by the land bank with grant money. They said it's going to involve some active, the new space, the two blighted buildings that were demolished, and the vacant lot in between. According to the article, it's going to involve some active green space with additional parking in the downtown area. So I read that as they demolished two buildings, they purchased, well, they probably got it free, a space, and it's a parking lot and it's green space. And I don't see a dime tax return to anybody on that. And examples like that from my research, that's the way land banks go. They're just, municipalities are getting land, and they're either using it for the municipalities, many of them are using it for various things, or they're selling it, or whatever they're doing. And I don't know, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me that that's what they're doing. So that is one of my major concerns.
Well, you know, if they turn it over, I mean, they're losing taxes on it too. I mean, not only are we losing taxes, I mean, they're losing tax dollars on it too. You know, and I guess the trade-off would be if they think that their loss in taxes, you know, that the income that property may generate in terms of economic incentives may offset, you know, what they would gain in taxes. I mean, that would be the municipality's interest. We wouldn't have that ability to do that. You know, then the question is, do we want to participate in promoting economic development? You know, that's a decision we have to make.
In that scenario too, the two blighted properties that they tore down was not generating taxes, but it also beautified. Again, I agree with you, they're not getting any money out of it, but at least put some beautification into that, maybe that block in that municipality. It's not an eyesore, which then other people or businesses could benefit from it not being an eyesore right there.
Right, but they still had the overall, they had the cost of
But
getting the property.
they got that from a grant. They got that from a grant to do it.
And grant money will not last forever.
But if they didn't have grant money, would they have done it?
Right. I've read many places that everybody relies on grant money. The flipping of properties, I think that's a myth, quite frankly. And one final thing, the county also has a blight program. And the redevelopment authority is involved with that. And it's being funded from the recording feeds and everything. And Armstrong claims they're going to make about $50,000 annually on it, and it's earmarked for demolition. So the redevelopment authority is the administrating agency on this for a 5% administrative cost I'll add. But they're using this and the land bank. This isn't going to be incorporated, from the way I understood it, this isn't incorporated in the land bank. Anybody else catch that?
Didn't they say they were going to have initial shot in the arm from some of that money?
Yes.
Yeah.
From the blight fund?
Some of the blight fund was going to the land bank.
Well,
You
the
know,
land bank becomes self-sufficient at one point, they have
Right.
40 million.
You know, I think the purpose of the blight property is that those are properties that you can't do anything with the structure, so they're tearing them down. The land bank is to take properties that, you know, where the structure could be renovated and made usable again. I mean, that's the impression I got from talking with commissioners.
Or they may want to require, I mean, there is something, realistically, there is something to the fact that if the county would use the money in the blighted program to tear a building down, then the land bank may want to step in and try to acquire it at that point and resell a vacant piece of ground that may be more valuable with the building down in terms of developing.
Yeah.
So I think it could happen either way. But, yeah, I don't think you should assume that the land bank and the county's blighted fund would not work together. But again, the concern is drying everything up at once, though.
Okay, that task force, Blight County Task Force, or whatever they call it, they identified 200 somewhat blighted properties just within their areas, so that's what's gonna happen to them. Okay, I'm done.
Okay. Any other comments?
Would you want to pursue this further and get it to the county, see what they think of our requested changes?
I think so. I mean, we heard from 3 for sure in favor. Doug, you know, I'm not,
I
don't think, but.
Well, let me say this, if you have any more questions or ideas, get them to the superintendent or Mr. Kirk, and they'll get them to me, or bring them up again on Monday.
Okay, did we settle, are we looking in an advisory capacity, or are we looking for a seat on the board?
I think my suggestion to you would be to put in here, if you guys want a seat on the board, we could put in there that if they're legally able to, the next vacancy or add-on, we get to tell them who we want on the board. But if you put a board member on the board, remember, they're not just there for the land bank, they are there representing the redevelopment authority in whatever other countywide projects are going on.
It's a separate board. The land bank and the redevelopment authority are separate
No,
boards.
they're not. The land, when the redevelopment board is the land bank board, it has to keep separate records, budgets, et cetera, for just the land bank. But when they have their, when you are on the redevelopment board, if we want representation on it in order to get actual representation at their decision-making votes, that they would be voting on other things besides the land bank.
I think we'd be better off just having them have to notify us of what properties they were looking at or something, having someone appointed on the board that they had to come to before they did something and let us know. Because as you say, we already have one vote anyhow, so it's not gonna make a big difference. And I don't know how the rest of you feel, but probably most of us would not want to go to all of the meetings that they might have or something in addition to what we already do. So I think we'd be further ahead with just them notifying us.
Yeah, I was thinking definitely along those same lines. I was actually thinking an advisory committee gives everyone a little more flexibility. So, because they're not as restricted because of this makeup of this formal authority. Because we may, what if the other municipalities would like to participate in that, you know? Or what if they're agreeable to having an admin, so Mr. Kirk attends this, and they said, you know, when we met with them last week, you know, they are gonna take this very slow. They're not gonna have, you know, monthly meetings where there's all this activity. It may be slow enough where they're not gonna have regular meetings, but when they do, then we can actually go in there and have a discussion and then have other people around the table. So, you know, Mr. Kirk or another administrator here would also want to attend and offer input. I just think it offers us a lot more flexibility than being appointed to a board for the reasons he said. And I mean, that's I think a 5-year term. It's not going to coincide with possibly with terms so that you're on the school board. And it just seems really messy to do it like that. So, however,
I think if you want to go with the advisory committee, I think it would behoove us to contact, for example, Apollo Ridge School District. Because if they would also like to be on the advisory committee, and the 3 municipalities that are expressing interest here in Armstrong, because the way they answered the one question, recall, they said the properties they're choosing are going to be based on who the municipalities recommend, what properties the municipalities recommend. So the municipalities are already kind of in there doing advising if it continued that way. And so I think the 2 entities presently that are out is the Apollo Ridge School District and Armstrong School District, if Apollo Ridge cares. But at least you'd have an advisory committee that at least has 2 school districts that are involved in contributing most of the taxes being involved.
Yeah, I may be wrong, but I think Apollo has already endorsed the land bank.
Yeah, I know they want to do it, yes. I think they told us that. If my memory's right at our meeting.
So I don't know. I don't know what it looks like. You know, I'm not an expert in this. So I don't know what, doesn't really provide you with a lot of direction. However, we can state it that we want to have involvement in some capacity where we have an ability to.
I mean, if nobody else is interested, we're an advisory committee of 1, 2, 3 that are all going to be Armstrong School District. If the other communities aren't interested,
right,
or the other school districts aren't interested in having anybody on. I'm not trying to discourage that, but I think you, at a minimum, then we should at least have somebody they have to physically contact
let's
and
do
meet
that.
with from our board, be it an administrator or a board member that's designated to be that contact.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of a compromise to that.
Then we don't care whether the other municipalities or other school districts want to have any input. At least we would have our input. Whether they listen to you is a whole other question, of course.
Yeah, for just those properties within our boundaries we're talking about.
Right. It doesn't make sense for them to approach us about Paula Ridge property. How does that sound to everyone? Okay? Everyone tired tonight?
Yeah.
All right.
I don't get up at 3 in the morning.
Yeah. Not used to these long meetings.
I'm up by 10.
All right, so just get whatever feedback you have about the draft agreement to Chris, and he will filter that through to Lee, and we'll further discuss on Monday. Okay, and then the other one last.
The board has to decide how you want to handle the vacancy that we have on the board vacated by Mrs. Lote. We put an advertisement out, the deadline was last Friday. We have 2 qualified candidates who are interested in serving in her position until her term's up. So we have until March 15th.
Actually, you have after that,
to fill the position. That's
30 days after her
the
vacancy.
seat is vacated on the 15th. The person could sit in beginning on March 15th.
So it's whether you want to schedule interview, which again has to be done in a public meeting, or whether you want to try to garner more candidates, in which case you would do another advertising of some kind.
How do other board members feel about those options?
I say we schedule the interviews.
I agree.
How often was that vacancy advertised?
Once. It was just advertised once.
It was advertised one time in the Leader Times.
Yes, and it's on our website. It was on our website also.
So that's a little under advertising, isn't it? I mean, how many people didn't know or don't know? You've got an election coming up. You've got circulation of petitions and everything. I would like to wait until the petition date is up. I think it's March 14th or 13th. That's when the petitions have to be in. Figure out, maybe there's 8 people running for the 2 seats. There's 2 seats available. You don't know. We don't know, and we won't know until all the nomination things are in. So that's my suggestion. I would prefer to wait, and that still gives us lots of time between then and when we have to do anything. That's my opinion.
I also say we schedule the interviews. We did have people that followed the guidelines, met the deadline. Deadline is passed. I say we move on and schedule the interviews. Anyone else?
Do we have to vote on that, Mr. Price? To set, I mean, or do we just by consensus say we're going to?
Well, you can do it by consensus, but yes, you want to know that that's what the majority of you want to do.
Right.
And then which meeting you want to do it for, keeping in mind again, your meeting, you have 2 meetings in March that are before the actual effective date of of Ms. Lote's resignation, and then you have 2 meetings in April that would keep you within the 30-day grace period. And you can schedule a special meeting if you wish.
So the interviews could be conducted at the March, is it 11th meeting? And then
4th and
It's 7th and 11th.
7th and 11th.
7th and 11th, I'm sorry.
I think the first question, we have to get consensus. The first issue is, do we want to schedule the interviews or do we want to repost? I agree with Dr. Lobby. I think we should schedule the interviews and not repost the advertisement. Mr. Smith should post the advertisement. Anybody?
I think we should schedule the interviews.
Schedule the interviews.
I think we should schedule the interviews, but for a later date.
Yeah, we'll tackle that next then. So.
Aren't you going to ask me?
I know.
Okay.
What do you think?
He didn't ask you.
He assumed that.
Okay, all right, well, okay, so we are gonna schedule the interviews. I mean, we can, instead of rushing to get this, we would like to do it, I believe, right, at a regular meeting, so we don't have to have a special meeting to do the interviews, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so Monday is just right around the corner, probably too soon. I mean, I don't know what you guys think, it's up to you. Either we have it Monday or in March at the open caucus.
I think March would be better.
I think March.
Okay. Seems like it's,
Yeah.
okay.
Then we would vote on it at the regular meeting
That's
in
what I was
March.
thinking, if we did caucus, then.
If we do it at the caucus, we can vote then on Monday
Yeah.
Yeah.
at the regular meeting.
All right, we'll reach out to those candidates.
They can be sworn in and at the April meeting.
March meeting.
Yeah, they can be sworn in. They don't need to be sworn in at a board meeting. They can be sworn in by a notary, a magistrate.
Can't be
Judge,
March though, because it doesn't take
mayor.
effect till after.
That's right, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Why I get confused.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is they can be sworn in before they actually take their seat, because that's a condition to being allowed to take a seat. You have to be sworn in.
Okay, anything else under other from administrators or school board members? Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Elkin, seconded by Mr. Mulroy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.